Welcome everybody to the August 5th Ortelius architecture meeting. And I just dropped the link to the docs in the chat. So if you could sign in, that'd be great. Maybe just zoom in on that and we can. All righty, we're share. Come on, Zoom. Okay. So just want to bring everybody up to speed on the service catalog piece. Let me see if I actually have it. I think I have it running local. Give you a preview of where we're at. Seems like everything went to sleep this week. There it is. So as you know, the service catalog is primarily focused around the components and the information we can gather around a component version. So some of the stuff that we have added, thanks to Ukarsh and other folks helping out, and the microservices, coming along. So the Swagger JavaScript is working really well. What I ended up having to do was the way the code works is it likes a URL to be passed to it. So I ended up changing so this is where the JavaScript that loads up the Swagger. And what I ended up doing is changing the text file API endpoint to return the full Swagger file. So before we were returning a JSON string with another JSON. It was like an embedded JSON. And to simplify things, I just ended up making it all. When you go and ask for the text file, it returns everything that you requested, the whole file, and none of the additional stuff that, because you already know it. You already know what the component ID is. You already know what the type is. So those types of things I took out, and we're just returning the whole text file. So that's where the Swagger's rendering that. One of the things that on the microservice side I ended up doing was to switch between the MIME type. One of the things I ran into, let's see if this is the one, switch over to that one. I had to derive the MIME type appropriately. So the Swagger API will act real nice if you give it the right MIME type. So I found some code out there. If we know that the file that was stored in the database was a README file, that was a markdown, and that we're going to return a markdown MIME type. Otherwise, you do this little try catch to try to see if you can parse it into a JSON string. And if that works correctly, then you go ahead and return it as a application JSON. And then if it's a YAML, if it doesn't work there, then you give it a try with a YAML, and you go ahead and return it as text YAML. It was interesting that I found that this MIME type for YAML really hasn't been adopted yet as a standard, but it seems to be text/YAML is the MIME type that will allow you to download, or I can't remember which way it was, whether it allowed you to render it or download it. Either way, the Swagger side understands when it gets a MIME type of YAML that it'll parse it as YAML and then render it over on our GUI side appropriately. So when we're working with the on the build side, after you build your component, you build your microservice, we go ahead and gather the information, the Git digest, all that fun stuff. We're going to go ahead and if there's a Swagger file that's passed in, we'll go ahead and upload it, whether it's JSON or YAML. So it makes it really nice on that front. And then here's the README on this side, where we have the README that's coming across. And I found another JavaScript library to go ahead and parse the markdown and render it as HTML. So you get full HTML embedded with all the hyperlinks and everything like that, which makes it very nice to be able to grab the README right out of the repo and store it in our database, and then be able to render it appropriately. And then some stuff that Ukarsh was working on was the licensing. So we have a Golang program that will go and run a couple security scan tools and store the data back in the database, and then we're going to pull it out. So for the sample data, we can see right now we're just looking at Python modules. So this is the package, like the Flask RESTful, and then the version, and that one is using BSD. We did put in hyperlinks with this, and it will take you right to the license. That one wasn't found, so we just take the default. Let's try MIT. So people can go look up what the typical MIT license file looks like at that level. So it's going to be very handy. Now, one of the things we'll do with the licenses and the CVEs, because we have component versions are packaged into application versions, we'll be able to roll up all the licenses up to the application version and all the CVEs up to the application version as well. So if you want to know, what licenses that your application is consuming, we'll have that list right there. You don't have to go dig for anything, which will be nice. The CVE side, that's still a work in progress. The back end's there. I just working on pulling in the front end, but we'll have the CVE list with the links over to the CVE database as well. So that's kind of what we're has been going on that front. Some of the other things we did move around, like the dependency map, and we'll probably move around a couple of these other boxes as well. So with that, I'd like to let me see. Ukarsh, you're on as right now, right? Back to me. I'd like to kind of.
He's just muted.
If you could just explain what you did with your Golang program to give everybody just kind of a idea of what you went through.
Yeah. So am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So the objective was to create an application that would scan any Docker image and generate the JSON file. So currently we are using the commands to generate two types of files that are, one of them will generate the file that will have a bill of material and the licenses that we used. And the other one will have like if we have found any security vulnerabilities. So that will have inside the CVE.json. Apart from that, we have only done it for the Python application as of now, and that is ready to be consumed. And we'll look like how we can leverage this application for other types of application as well.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to figure out which is the next language we focus on. One of the hard parts with the security scanning is there no one tool does everything quite right. So when we were working with the pull request, Marky Jackson was asking, why don't you just use Trivy as a GitHub action to get this information? Well, what I found is Trivy does not give you the licensing for each Python module that's installed. And then that tool, which that was Cyclone DX, right, for the licenses? I think
Yes,
so.
correct.
Yeah. So Cyclone DX will find the licenses, but it won't find the vulnerabilities. So there's another program on the Python side called Safety that will give us the vulnerabilities. So this program is going to be, you know, we're going to have to make it, and I think we've architected it that way. So whatever the scanning tools the customers want to use, we'll be able to take that file, that output of it. We'll take it and put a copy of it into our database, so we can tie this version of the component with that license consumption or the vulnerabilities. We'll store that, and then we'll just go ahead and the microservices will help us render it. So what basically we're just creating a fancy wrapper around the licensing tools. We're not reinventing any of the scanners. We're just kind of tying them together to enable us to make it simple for somebody to plug into their pipeline a tool that'll allow them to perform some scanning. And all we're doing is we're getting JSON or YAML files out, and then from there, we upload those as a separate process. So it's like a two-step process. One is to gather the scanned data, and the second one is going to be uploading it to our database, which we already have the RESTful APIs and the microservices and our Python program to do all that upload part. So we're not like telling anybody that they have to use Cyclone or that they use Safety, as long as their tool is going to be able to provide some sort of file. We'll be able to take that file and add it to our database. Now, when we do get a new file format, we will have to make a change on the microservice level to parse that file accordingly and store it into the database, the data that we need. But it looks good. It's going to be really nice to be able to add on this information. And like I said, all this information will roll up to the application layer. I've not looked at the application layer to see where it makes sense to put the data. Let me see if I can find one that we can look at. This one was deployed. So we are going to have to, rearrange some of the boxes at the application layer. That's pretty funny. These couple rows are supposed to be hidden. This is what you get with doing a demo with a test code. But we'll have to put those CVEs and the rollups somewhere on this screen. We're getting a lot of data, and I know before there were some talks about making these collapsible rows, and that may be something that we'll need to do before we release this to be able to collapse some of these roles. It's just going to be organizational that we'll need to have everybody take a look at once we get closer.
We can still use the tabs on the top too if we want to group things together.
Yeah. The idea that this is just confused because of let me do this. Some of the things that one of the suggestions that we had for the tabs was we would still do the tabbing, but the tabbing would take you to another, let me try to explain it here. Let me get back into that one.
Oh, no worry, no worries.
So the tabbing right now, when I click on package components, it goes over to another diagram. And if I go back to the general. So we're actually switching screens. The idea was you would have basically these would be bookmarks. So if you wanted to go to the license, it would then go down and
Yep.
bump you to the license part.
Yep, just like a web page.
Yeah, it was going to be more that way instead of changing the tabs. What we felt, this is a couple meetings ago, that it was easier to navigate if we had everything on the same page and we were just going to collapse and expand.
I agree. Yeah,
the sections.
I totally agree. And then is there, have you guys talked all about secrets?
No.
Because there have been some folks that I've spoken to that said secrets would be something that they would like to see managed there as well. Backstage, I think, manages secrets, but I didn't see how, and I didn't see what about secrets that they managed. If they exposed them here, or if they pointed to a vault of some sort, I didn't know.
Well, I'm wondering. So let me bring up. I think it's gonna be. I may have it in here. So this is like our pipeline for Google, and we have a couple secrets here. They're encrypted and they're actually stored inside of Google. There's an encryption key on the Google side that'll decrypt the user ID and password when this runs. So I can't foresee us becoming a secrets tool.
I don't think Backstage is either. I think the Backstage might just point to where the secrets are stored.
Yeah, or list the secrets that need to be consumed.
Yes.
Or that are being consumed.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm not suggesting we manage secrets ourselves, because that would just be, I think it's just an attribute of a component that might need to be associated.
Okay. If it's an attribute to a component that can be easily managed, we do have the key value pairs, and we can explicitly break out secrets just to call them out a little more.
I think that might be a good idea, unless somebody wants to look into it a bit. And like I said, I did a review of Backstage yesterday, and I noticed that they had a plugin for secrets. So they have, at Spotify, they're obviously managing secrets with some tool. And in that tool, they had, when you looked at a component overview, they had a tab that said secrets, but he didn't go into it to show how it was managed.
Yeah, so here's where we have our key value pairs of extra stuff, and we could do a secrets box. One of the other things we kind of need to make a decision on is right now we're loading in the README file for the component or the microservice. I think we should load in the license file that's in the repo as well. So we have what the license is for this service, plus the licenses that are being used at the consumption level.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It's a low-hanging fruit one. It's just going to be where box-wise where we put it. Real estate is becoming prime.
You want to open some issues on those two things, secrets and.
Yep. I'll do it after this. I'll make sure they open them. So that was if we think and if there's anything else in the in the Git repo that I'm missing that we would need that would be of interest to anybody. Does anybody use the GitHub wiki or the discussions or if we should be having like hyperlinks here to, right now we have like the Git URL, but that's more like if you want to clone the repo. If we need to put in like where the issue page is, if we want to put in where there's the PRs are done. Wasn't one of the tools we looked at like went and brought the last 5 pull requests or something like that in the list?
I don't remember, Steve. I
Okay.
don't remember that.
But that's some other information that we need to think about is, do we want to have the last 5 pull requests that are either opened or closed, or the last 5, the most active issues
Yep.
in the Git repo. I think we can get that. I know from GitHub they have the API set, but I don't know. Does anybody know anything like about Bitbucket or GitLab and how they kind of track issues and pull requests? I know in GitLab they call them merge requests instead of a pull request.
So I think so that there's no particular criteria like depending on organization. So like we used to use GitLab, but all our stories and issues were present in Jira.
Okay.
Like there is no any particular structure that is followed.
Right. I know that's the hard part. Why can't people just agree? Make life a lot easier. We could write some really cool software for everybody to just agree on what to do.
Yeah, defining standards is.
But that's something I think I'm not going to worry about for this release of the service catalog, but something that we should definitely keep our pulse, keep the pulse on.
Well, I think any of those thoughts we should just go ahead and open issues for.
Okay.
So we don't forget about them. Somebody wants to take it on, they can then.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll have issues for basically the cleanup process. We need to clean up and standardize all the microservice code. Crom's working on some pieces around the Postgres connection pooling for our Python code. The pi breaker allowing us to retry and avoid crashback loops, loop crashback, whatever it is, you know what I mean, in Kubernetes. And things like that. We need to create Swagger files for each microservice for ourselves. We need to make sure that the documentation is all updated, not only for the how to use it, but also on like the RESTful API side to make sure that that all's available as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Just I like to spend the next 3 to 4 weeks wrapping everything up and get it out the door. I think it's looking really good. Just got to get that last sprint in here.
Yep, and the sooner you can get it out to a place that we can start playing on it, we can start creating some test cases and start getting documentation done. So it'd be nice if we could do that at the same time, if there's some place we could run this in a dev environment.
Yeah, we have the Azure cluster that we can run this on, so everybody can be looking at the same data and interacting that way. So,
yes.
So
Okay.
we'll have that.
The sooner the better. Hey, Karam, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
I hear you got a new job.
Yeah.
Congrats. Are you excited?
Yes, definitely.
Good for you.
Alrighty. Any other questions, comments? Anything else I missed?
Yeah, Steve, yesterday we were discussing regarding the open API one. does that
Yep.
Swagger bundle support that? If someone can test it out.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things the JavaScript library we weren't sure about is if it would support rendering an open API. Is open API YAML or JSON or both?
So it is both, just the what do you say, the syntax wise.
The version.
So
Yeah.
you can see like Swagger is basically version 2.0 series, and Open API is a specification in itself. So it starts with Swagger version 3.0.
Okay. So we'll have to. I'll make sure that we put an issue out there to take care of that, to test it.
And if there's a way
Yeah,
you want us to report bugs and stuff, Stephen, or test cases, do you want to create a separate repository? Take a look at that as well.
No, we can just put everything in. Let me share my screen real quick. So if we go to the Git repo. So off of the Ortelius repo, if you go to issues, we do have a project called Service Catalog. So all you have to do is tag it as Service Catalog.
Okay.
Now that you bring that up, I am going to go through and a lot of these things around like the microservices and things like that, I think they're far enough along to go ahead and close some of these. So I'm going to like add a container dependency box. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pull request and close a bunch of these as part of that process. So and then new ones I'll create for like what we just talked about, testing with Open API, adding in, the links to GitHub issues, those type of things I'll add in here, and I'll tag them as the Service Catalog project.
Okay.
And if you have any issues that come up, even like documentation, what we do is I don't know if it's in, let me just change my filter. So all we do is we go ahead and just put the keyword in front of it if it's documentation. All of our issues are centralized in one location, even though that this is going to refer to the documentation repo. It just makes it easier for people to find things to work on if it's all in one place instead of spread across our 15, 20 repos. And in GitHub, you can cross-reference repositories. So if you do a pull request in the documentation in the docs repo, you can reference this issue over here, and you can automatically close it when you do the PR merge.
Okay, I'm going to try to start working on some documentation next week. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Oh, and the automatic deployment to Azure for the website and docs is broken right now. We had a certificate expire at the Azure level, and I'm trying to figure out how to get that certificate updated. So if anybody's an Azure rock star, ping me on Discord. I need to create a new what is it called? Service principal. Well, I have a service principal I need to associate a new PEM file against that has a certificate that hasn't expired. So if any of you out there are on the Azure side, one last thing, we have the this evening, my time, it'll be 8:30 Australian time, is going to be the GitOps working group. I'm not going to be able to make that. I let Brad know. He'll probably still keep doing that, even though I'm not going to be there. So they're moving along pretty well on that front. They got some good progress around Argo and how they're getting into the next phase of where they're going to be able to start laying out the design for Ortelius. Their research is pretty close to being done.
Well, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. You didn't happen to share with them the what Spinnaker or where OptionX is done around Spinnaker and GitOps, did you?
No, I did not know about that.
Okay, I'll put it out on Discord.
Yeah. So they've been working mainly with Argo right now, understanding Argo, and basically the problem I keep posing to them, which they keep on thinking they have solved, is repository sprawl, and more specifically manifest files sprawl, and how to deal with those in a microservices world. The GitOps works really great if you have a monolith or if you have 5 microservices.
Right.
But everybody, last time I talked to Sasha, he was doing an application. He was splitting out into microservices that they had 150 of them. And he says it's just, you just pull your hair out with all these files. So if you can, I know it's weird times for folks for Australia, but it's going to be 8:30 Sydney time, I believe. Anything else? Did I miss anything? All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
And
I'd enjoy some. I know we got all the stuff we're trying to do, but it is summer for some of us.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.